Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the Aging and Spirituality podcast. We're very happy to have you back. I am Kathy Lee Taylor, and this is
Chris Jensen.
We're so excited today to be talking about things that have to do with getting older and how that frees us to be aligned with our soul and its true nature. As you're aging, which is, of course, a big topic in our podcast, you have that free time to be really thinking about yourself, focusing on the things that really matter to you instead of worrying about feeding the dog and the baby and taking the garbage out and all of those things. So, hopefully you're doing less of that as you're aging. So here we go. Today we're going to be talking about how to live your life at peak. And what that really means is learning how to be at your best when you're serving from the highest place inside of you. And today we're going to talk about that in terms of joy, because joy, we're really meant to be joyful, creative beings. And if you focus on joy, you're going to really learn how the universe works. Because if you can't be joyful, you're going to know there's something blocking you. And that gives you an opportunity to let that go. And the more you do that letting go process and receiving joy, the more you're able to just naturally live in joy without having to work at it. So joy is a very high level of energy to be able to live at. If we could all do that, the world would be a much sweeter place to live in. It's definitely a good goal to have for yourself and actually for others. So, let's just be clear what joy is. It's not something that comes from money. It's not something that you can buy with money. It's none of those things. Joy comes from inside of you. It is a energy that exists in higher levels of consciousness. You can learn to get to those places of joy through the study of yoga. That's how Chris and I did it. So that's what we talk about. There might be other ways that you know of, but that's what we talk about here.
So today, are you going to talk about how if you're in a funk, you can get in touch with joy?
Definitely. I'm going to talk about all those hindrances that stand in your way and put you in a funk.
Right.
And so when you become aware of those places, then you can pay attention to them, let them go, find out what's going on there. Sometimes it involves a little healing process. Sometimes it's just a perception that you had, when you were a younger person, and you can let go of it now because it doesn't really apply to you at your age. So it's really the awareness, as we know, in transformation is always the first step. So yeah, we're definitely going to talk about those kinky places, kinks in the hose where we can we can get the energy flowing again. Mm-hmm. So if you want to live in a place of joy more, a state of joy more, let's see, where was I going with that? I was talking about kinks in the hose. What I wanted to say was, how do you know when you're in a state of joy? One of the things that I really pay attention to is how I feel when I wake up. When you get up in the morning, are you feeling like your day is really fresh? Or do you get up feeling like, oh God, this is routine. This is ugh, I got to do this over again. Or is it just like your whole life is laid out in front of you? You wake up and you're really grateful for what you have. You're excited about what could possibly be new today. There's just an open receptivity to being in a really beautiful place. That for me is how joy feels in my heart. I just invite the day in with this open gratitude and full of love for what can possibly be for that day, for the potential for that day.
So do you start out with some gratitude practice, like appreciating some things in your day? Is that?
Most people have to do that. It comes really natural for me now. And I still do. I sit to meditate. I'm grateful for my place on the floor. I'm grateful for my body. Most of the time I'm grateful for my body because it's not falling apart at my age. Most of the time I'm just like, oh God, I feel good today. Right? Yeah, my muscles aren't killing me. I played 5 days of tennis next week. My back didn't fall out. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that. that kind of thing. So yeah, just the real basics of being able to get up in the body and move and be, at peace with that. But of course, grateful for what I see outside my window, grateful for the fact that I've got a roof over my head. I've got food in my tummy. I'm grateful for the freedom that I have to work at home and be able to earn a living that way, but be able to do my podcast when I want to be able to do that, or be able to work on creative projects, all the time. So yes, that is an important thing to do. So thanks for asking that question. If you start your morning with gratitude, it's really hard not to be in joy. It really stimulates it quite quickly, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things before my feet touch the floor, even if I have to run to the bathroom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I said,
I'm grateful I got to pee and you go running.
My first thing is just thank you for this day.
Oh, wow.
Thank you for this beautiful day. And then then I run, right?
I'm still here. Thank you for this day. That's a good way to start for sure. So listeners, if your day feels dull or routine, you're going to enjoy what we're about to talk about, because we're going to give you some exercises to get yourself back on track. And here's where we start. First thing you do is you have to figure out, what are the things that are making me numb? What are the things that I'm paying attention to that are complete and utter distractions, and they're not helping my life in any way? They're making me less aware by paying attention to them. So let me give you some examples. I actually wrote down some what I call hindrances. This is way back from a yoga retreat we did years ago. Gurju was talking about physical hindrances, mental hindrances, and emotional hindrances. And of course, physical hindrances, these are the kinds of things that could be getting in your way from experiencing joy. Overeating is one, sleeping too much, not exercising. You got to give your body exercise. Even if it's just the beautiful postures that we do in yoga. In fact, that's probably the best exercise that you can do. Other physical hindrances include things like having a dis-ease, and I'm breaking that word up for a reason. Disease is basically you being uncomfortable with something in your life that is turned into a physical reality. That can be anything from migraines to indigestion to whatever issue it is that you come up that's a physical issue. That's one that can take people out of spirit for lifetimes. So it's very important to pay attention. So you get the idea of what a physical hindrance is. A mental hindrance was a personal one for me. I had a lot of doubt when I was young and grew up thinking really negatively, kind of trapped into a victim consciousness in the environment that I was in. That is definitely a mental hindrance that you have to let go of. You can't be negative and have joy at the same time. Or your mind is just what we call the quintessential monkey mind. It never stops racing. It's always busy getting something accomplished now or in the future. That's a serious mental hindrance that stops most people from going into meditation. That's one of the first things that we teach in meditation. And other mental hindrances can be shown by not being able to be silent or be still. When you're not able to do those things easily, you know that your mental state is getting in the way. Okay, and so then emotional hindrances, things like you're angry, you're hateful, you're living in fear or anxiety, grief, all of these things that happen to all of us during our lifetimes. At some point, we have to learn to process these emotions and get through them. Addictions fall into this bracket. Addictions to drugs, alcohol, drinking, sex, video games, gambling, shopping. Boy, that's a long list of nonsense you can get involved in for a long time. I hope you don't. I pray you don't. But those are places that people get really, really stuck. And yeah, that is not a joyful trip at all. So these are the kinds of distractions that cause drama in your life. And you can hear just by listening to those things that are so normal in typical lives that can take you off path for years and years and years. So your intention to stay on the spiritual path and stay centered in spirit has to be strong. And the more you go through letting go of those hindrances, one by one, whatever it is that you are actually dealing in your personal life, the stronger that pull towards being centered in spirit becomes. You get better and better at it. Wouldn't you say that's true, Chris?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the more you do it, it's like anything, the more you do it.
Muscle, like a
Yeah.
muscle, right?
It's like
Yeah.
muscle memory, and you do it with intensity and repetition, and all of a sudden it gets easy.
Exactly. We'll call it the yoga muscle.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just keep practicing. So
Right. Keep going.
right. So remember that the distractions really waste your time, because they're sucking up your awareness and your energy. And in the meantime, you can't grow. You can't have an increasing sense of well-being or joy in any way. So the solution to eliminating these kinds of distracting habits is we're going to do this in two parts today, and I'm going to call on Chris, who's so great at teaching this kind of stuff. But the first part that I wanted to talk about is you have to learn to empty yourself first. So to begin with, you're going to have to release the first beginning step when we do yoga classes. As Chris knows, she's a teacher of all the things in yoga. The first thing you do is postures. You learn to release the tension from your body. And that tension that is in your body can cause turbulence in the mind. And both of those have to be released. That's part of the emptying process. So you get free of that stress so that your mind is not continually distracted when you try to get into a place of stillness. You also have to empty out mental and emotional content so you're not restless all the time. So again, practicing this kind of stuff, we're talking about it almost like you can take it away today and be done. This is something you have to do regularly and learn to do it as habitually, to let go. That's why when we say you meditate, you sit down every day to meditate. We meditate twice a day. That's because it has to become a habit of that letting go of the distractions, letting go of the tension, letting go of the turbulence. It becomes your yoga muscles, so that when you can do that. So
You're gonna tell us how to empty.
So you learn how to empty. Exactly. So let's do a little learn how to empty exercise here. I was thinking maybe Chris is the expert on this kind of stuff, but I was thinking maybe mind drift or practicing introspection. What do you think is best to teach him at this point?
Yeah, I think mind drift would be great.
Okay, so you get to do that.
Yeah. All right. So normally our mind drifts. I mean, if I talk to you right now and I mention an avocado, within 5 or 10 seconds, you may be thinking about the avocado you ate last week, or when you stepped on, 2
The
weeks.
elephant in the room.
Right. So one of the ways that we learn to gain control of our mind is watching the drift, just being aware but not getting involved in it. And we're going to do this practice in a minute. But the idea is that we're going to start out, and I'll give you something to think about when we start out. And then you're going to just let your mind drift around it and watch it. That's all. You're just going to watch it.
No naming, no judging, no talking.
Nothing. No, you're just going to watch it.
Okay.
That's the first part of the process, and that's important because you find out so much about what the content of your mind is, and just by watching it in that way, you release a lot. There's another step to that, but we'll do this first, and then I'll tell you about the other step. So I'm going to grab something off the shelf. This flower.
The Japanese tree?
Yeah, a little Japanese tree. So what I'd like you to do is just put your awareness on this little tree. And we're going to do this just for a couple minutes and just,
And for people who are just listening, just think that you're looking at a little bonsai tree.
Yeah, or you could look at anything, a rose or an apple or anything you've got around. So you just look at something, close your eyes, and then just let your mind go. Just watch your mind, watch what it does. So we'll do this for just for a minute. Okay, so you can bring your attention back. So where did you end up? I'll tell you where my drift went. I went from this to the roses outside my house, which, which went to the flowers that we were putting together in little garlands for my daughter's wedding recently.
Oh, wow.
And then I went from there to the flower mart in LA where we got the flowers, and just so I ended up at the flower mart. So
That's cute. All related thoughts, though. That's interesting.
yeah, now that's not necessarily the normal. I mean, if I had gone on another little bit, I would have been in Mexico. So that's where I was going right from there. So
Okay. Okay.
so you just watching your mind, it's calming, and you become aware of what's on your mind. So it's good to do mind drift every once in a while.
Mhm.
But the next, yeah, go ahead.
Can I just ask a question?
What
Because
is mind up?
this is seems important to me about what comes up. It feels like if you go into this practice and you're able to just easily let go of your thoughts, then you don't really have a big concern about anything. They're not sticking. But if you have thoughts that come back and are poking you all the time, that's the places where you pay attention, and there's a message in there that you need to pay attention to before you can let it go. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really important, because if there's something disturbing. So where did you end up?
I actually dropped right down into my heart and was just kind of,
Okay.
I was like, I don't want to think about anything.
Rebellious mind in yoga. So the other part of this practice is a little bit like what I did, which unintentionally I did it, but it's called a directed mind drift. This will help you to focus your mind, and it will bring you a lot of peace and contact ultimately with the inner self. So you look at the flower or the apple, whatever you've got, and you start to let your mind drift, but only around, like we're doing this flower related things.
Okay.
So, and then when you fall off, let's say I was in Mexico at the end,
Right.
and I go back to where I fell off. I fell off at the flower mart.
Okay.
And then you keep going. And what that does is it helps you to focus your mind and helps you to release the distractions. So let's do this we'll just do this for, maybe not even a whole minute, maybe.
Okay.
So let's look at the flower or whatever you've got at home, an apple, and we're going to just close our eyes or keep them open either way and let our mind drift, but only around thoughts related to that flower or that apple. And wherever you fall off, when you catch yourself, go back to where you fell off and keep going.
Okay.
So here we go. Okay, so that gives you a little idea. I'll tell you mine, and we'll get Kathy's, and then we'll see how. But I went back to Mexico where I fell off. I went back to right before that, I was at the flower mart. So I went back there and I started going. And from the flower mart, I went to flowers. There were some roses in the garden here. And then there were these beautiful, I don't know what kind of flowers they are, but they were pink or something flowers that I really liked. So I was appreciating those flowers, and that reminded me of these enormous sunflowers we had in our front yard. And it was Christmas time. This is maybe 10, 12 years ago. And these flowers were so big and so gigantic, and we put on sunglasses and took pictures in front of them and sent them to some relatives on the East Coast who were suffering from the winter.
Snow, yeah.
Yeah. And so then I started thinking about growing up on Long Island in the snow and how much,
Oops.
so I went back to the sunflowers. Okay.
Wow.
But I could feel my mind getting more and more focused as I did it. And how about you?
It was a lot more focused this time than it was the last time we did it. For me, I kept my mind focused right on the one part of the plant that was in front of me. And at first I was just appreciating its beauty. And then as another thought tried to slip in about weddings or whatever it was, in my mind, what I did is I went, oh, is that so? Like to notice it, but not to give it any gas, like don't give it any real attention where it gets to play. So the thought would come in and I'd be like, oh, is that so? And then I go right back to focusing on the flower. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. That actually worked very well.
So try that, you guys. Work with it and do it for a few minutes. You're going to find what it does is it gives you that emptying. It's going to empty a lot of the energy that's in the distractions, and you'll find it easier and easier just to focus.
Yeah, the energy that's all tied up in your body and your brain, your emotions is going in one direction, and you're dispersing it and letting it go, so you can have that beautiful openness, so that stillness or peace can start to come in and fill that space instead. Which nicely takes us into the second phase of this, and that is inviting spirit in. Once you have that emptiness, once you get to the emptiness, we get to invite spirit in, yippee, which is so much more fun. No tension, no stress, just a beautiful connection to universal source. I love the word God, but it's not for everybody, but universal source is also a great description for what we're talking about, So I don't know if you want to do any more exercises on this, Chris, but the way to invite spirit in is to learn to meditate. Deep listening is another way that you can do it. If you can get yourself out in nature and just be really as silent as possible, and you're very successful at doing the emptying process, if you can deep listen for your soul, it will definitely pay attention to you. So I think we're probably at the end of our time today, but unless there's anything else you want to add about meditating,
no, if you do this practice of the directed mind drift, it will take you right into the source.
It will definitely invite spirit in.
Right.
You don't even have to do anything else. You'll just be ready.
Go right in.
All right. That was fun. Okay.
Yeah, fun.
All right. Thank you for showing up. Please go do these exercises. They're so much fun, and they will add so much joy to your life.
They will.
Thank you for coming. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.